This podcast contains graphic details about a horrendous crime which may not be suitable for all listeners. Welcome to Crimes Without Convictions with Sabrina Salas Matanani, taking a closer look at criminal cases on Guam where in some instances justice may not have been served, and crimes that have gone unsolved. This is Episode 1, Innocence Lost.
A life cut too short. We take you back to February 1996, when the body of a 4-year-old girl was found dead in a trash can outside a home in Yigo. She was badly beaten, raped, and murdered.
We got up there and, it was a report of a missing girl. And there was a search being conducted by patrol, and we were notified of the discovery of the body.
Before he was the chief of police, Steve Ignacio spent several years as an investigator with the Criminal Investigation Section. He recalls the afternoon he received the phone call to respond to a neighborhood in Yigo to assist with the search for 4-year-old D'anna Olley. For several hours, police scoured the Marianas Terrace neighborhood until they made the shocking discovery.
And I think what sticks out the most for me is the age of the victim. I can't think of any other case, still to this day, my 32 years in the Guam Police Department, where we've had a victim at such a young age of what later was determined to be a rape, a strangulation, and the eventual killing or the homicide of D'anna Olley. And it was I was just sad, at the time, 1996, I had one daughter, and she was probably she was still a minor, was very young. So, it was very disturbing. My daughter was only 9 years old at the time. It's disturbing as a police officer and disturbing as a father, that somebody would, kill such a young, innocent person.
D'anna was living with her father, 39-year-old David Olley, who was serving in the U.S. Navy at the time.
The night before D'anna Olley got killed, her father had pretty much sponsored a barbecue and a gathering at his house involving multiple people. Some people, it's my understanding that, if I remember correctly, some people he didn't even know, but he was known to have parties on the street, and it attracted, young adults, sometimes even minors, according to what we gathered. He got very drunk, fell asleep, and woke up the next morning and couldn't find his daughter. And, that's when panic set in, and, he called the police. And as we know now, her body was stuffed. Her body was actually stuffed inside a trash can. And they took folded sheets and they tried to conceal the body, covering the body with the folded sheets. Yeah.
How far away was that trash can from the house?
I believe it was the neighbor's trash can, or if not his trash can, if not Mr. Olley's trash can. Yeah, mm-hmm. Right down the street, right in the same area that we were searching. And we were searching. We were searching behind the house. We were going down, and there's a ponding basin there. We were going down 2 or 3 blocks, the search area.
According to Ignacio, days later, 18-year-old Bo Bruneman was arrested. On February 22, 1996, he was then indicted for aggravated murder and first-degree criminal sexual conduct. Court documents state that D'anna was raped, sodomized, and asphyxiated by manual strangulation. Crime scene evidence revealed pubic hairs in the victim's bed, the trash bag where she was stuffed, and in her anal vault. The hairs were analyzed by the Hair and Fibers Unit of the Crime Laboratory of the Federal Bureau of Investigations. The analysis yielded findings that the hairs were found to be inconsistent with those originating from the victim's father, but consistent with Bruneman. Police and the Attorney General's office felt they had a solid case.
The evidence, I think we all felt, was overwhelming. We had DNA. The case was pretty awful, and we had pubic hair consistent with Bo Bruneman's pubic hair that was found in the victim's anal vault. And her blood was all over his underwear. It was a pretty horrible case.
Before Tom Fisher was in private practice, he served as a prosecutor at the Attorney General's office. And back in 1996, he was tasked to bring Bo Bruneman to justice.
It affected a lot of people. There were calls on island for the institution of the death penalty. There was just outrage when the facts of the case were leaked, but when they were presented into the community,
The trial commenced in November of 1998. And although it would appear to be an open and shut case with all of the evidence, proving Bruneman was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt became a difficult task, as defense attorney Paul Vernier would give rise to questionable conduct and character of D'anna's father.
And, one of the things that was a challenge for him as the prosecutor was the father of the victim. So the father of the victim by no means was an angel. He was by no means, fit to be D'anna's father. But what even surprised me more is that he had actually won custody of D'anna over the mother, who we never met. She apparently, they got divorced. He got custody of D'anna and she moved off island. The father was an active duty service member of the Navy. And the things that we uncovered at the house when we were searching it, going through, trying to figure out, collect evidence as to what had happened to D'anna. One of the things that we uncovered that was very damning against D'anna's father was we found pornographic material, pornographic reading material that had a lot of references to incestuous relationships, father-daughter, mother-son, that kind of themed pornographic material. And so, of course, a good defense attorney, and Bo Bruneman had a good defense attorney. He used that. He used the fact that D'anna Olley father was a alcoholic. He was a chronic alcoholic. It's if I'm not mistaken, we uncovered information that he was actually kicked off the military base and forced to stay off base because he had been caught, I believe, several times, if not a couple of times, driving under the influence on the military base. So he was a threat to their military service members, so they forced him to move off base. And that's how he ended up at Marianas Terrace in Yigo.
But you say, and like you said, you guys had the DNA evidence, you had the circumstantial evidence. But then when defense attorney Paul Vernier began bringing up D'anna Olley's father in terms of some of the pornographic, incestuous type of reading materials that were found in the house and in the closet, do you think that was like the turning point?
Yeah, I suspect we fought, tooth and nail to keep. There was one magazine. I don't know how graphic you want me to be, but it was adult, incestuous, heterosexual pornography with some very. It was as I recall, it was a series of stories collected in a pornographic magazine, and pretty lurid is what I recall. And Paul was able to. The judge would not let the entire magazine in, but allowed the table of contents to come in, which was as damaging as anything else. So I suspect I think it injected reasonable doubt in the minds of the jurors. Yeah.
And how hard was it? I mean, what did you do during the trial when that was brought up? How did you try to come back from that?
We tried to explain to the jury evidently without too much success, that this dealt with adult incest, which was different from sexual attraction to children, minors. And we hope that they would see that as, a material difference. I wasn't able to talk to any of the jurors, but I just suspect that that was a turning point in the trial.
On Monday, December 28th, 1998, Bruneman would eventually take the stand in his own defense. According to an article in the Marianas Variety written by reporter Eric Say, Bruneman told the jury, "I did not kill D'anna Olley." Bruneman then proceeded to detail the evening he met David Olley. According to the Marianas Variety story, Bruneman testified that on the morning of February 15th, he decided not to go to work and instead went to a friend's house and began drinking. After consuming about 6 to 7 shots, he and his friend went to a store and bought a case of beer and drank that. He then went to another store and bought 3 bottles of wine. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, he and his friend went to another store and bought a 6-pack of beer and began drinking it while walking around Paris Acres. Bruneman then told the court that he had heard about a party in Marianas Terrace. It was around 8 p.m. when he came across David Olley sitting outside his home. The two began talking, and Olley gave him a rum and coke. D'anna, he said, was playing and riding her bicycle. Olley eventually went to sleep in a room in the back of the house, leaving him with his daughter. Bruneman told the jury the only contact he had with D'anna was when she asked him to help her put a cartoon video in her room. Bruneman said that he went back to the living room and fell asleep. According to the article, the next thing he knew, he was being roused by Olley asking where his daughter was.
When Bo Bruneman took the stand in his own defense, he was saying, I didn't kill D'anna. I've been waiting all this time in jail to tell my side of the story. When you heard him speak, telling his side of the story, what was going through, your mind?
I remember being frustrated. I think we had an evidentiary ruling. Bo, the day he came over to the Olley household, had actually broken into a house in that Marianas Terrace area. He'd kind of snuck into the house in the middle of the day. I think he probably stole some booze or something, and was just generally on a tear, up there. And I wanted to cross-examine Bo on those issues, his behavior during the day. And my recollection is that the judge wouldn't allow us to go into that. I think his theory might have been that it was too prejudicial. So I do remember feeling frustrated. I felt like my hands were a little bit tied in conducting a cross-examination. And, when you told me that, I had forgotten that Bo was on the stand. I just remember feeling a little bit frustrated about that. I wanted to go into that, What are you doing all day? You're breaking into people's houses and so forth. But the judge at the time felt that was too prejudicial.
After 6 weeks of trial, on December 31st, 1998, closing arguments were delivered, and hours later, a 12-member jury found Bruneman not guilty.
We were I don't know, dumbfounded, astonished, kicked in the gut when we heard the verdict. We walked out. There was at least 2 or 3 of us police officers who walked out of the courtroom, and we went back to Pedro's Plaza. And before we could get in the elevator, one of the officers just broke down, crying. He was crying. He was a father, and he was crying, and he was wondering, what did we do wrong? What did we miss? How could this be? How could this be? We had DNA evidence. We had a good case. We felt we had a good case. How could this be that, this guy was acquitted? And, we question that all the time. Even to this day, we question, how could this be?
I can understand that because, the case was very difficult. The evidence was very difficult to deal with. The characters involved were very difficult to deal with. And GPD, these are family men and women. And D'anna was only 4 years old, and she was disposed of upside down in a garbage can that night. She had been essentially tortured before she died. It was a very, very difficult case, and it doesn't surprise me that that sort of reaction came out of GPD. But in my estimation, GPD did nothing wrong. They conducted a very thorough investigation of the crime scene. There was no question about, corruption or alteration of evidence or anything like that. Those men and women at GPD at that time, they put their heart and soul into that case. Prosecution did too.
What about with you when things really began to sink in? Did you ever think back, like, I should have done this? Maybe I should have said this?
Absolutely. In fact, I still do that to this day. A lot of, when KOAM contacted me and told me they wanted to, kind of have a look back at this case, it really started bringing up a lot of second guessing and regrets and so forth. But, it's been 23 years now, and I agree with Steve. This is a case I will never forget.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very, very tough thing. So I guess the short answer, yeah, I have continually done an autopsy on that case, so to speak.
So what do you think went wrong?
Well, of course, that piece of evidence we talked about at the start of this interview was unfortunate. The jury did not like David Olley, the child's father. We put him on the stand, and he had a very flat effect and was entirely unemotional and didn't seem to be particularly invested in the case. I don't know. It was bad. D'anna's mother, didn't even want to come back for the trial. Then David Olley, as soon as he had finished testifying, as I recall, he was in the Navy, just immediately returned to his duty station, didn't stay around for the verdict or the rest of the trial. And I don't know. One thing that always bothered me about that was, we got like one of those school pictures of D'anna, when she was, I guess, probably 3 or 4, to show the jury what the little girl looked like. And the family didn't even want the photograph back. And that, I don't know, that was just a little strange, I thought. And I think that his effect in the trial may have given some of the jurors, I don't know this because I haven't spoken to them, but may have given some of the jurors pause about whether or not Bo Bruneman was the actual murderer. And I think there was, they may have felt that David Olley had done it and had set Bo up because I think that there was a lot of drinking involved, is my recollection.
So is there anything you would have done differently?
Wait, woulda, shoulda, coulda, huh? I think looking back on it, just from a practitioner's perspective, I think I would not have put, hindsight's 20/20, but I think I would not have put David Olley on the stand because he did come across like that. And I think that might have given some jurors permission to find Bo not guilty, in spite of the fact that we had all the forensic evidence. Other than that, no, I can't really think. There's nothing. We fought about the pornography coming in, and we lost that fight, and that was the end of it. But I think David Olley, I think I might not have put him up on the stand.
The jury found Bo Bruneman not guilty. Mr. Olley had kind of a questionable past. But do you think Bo Bruneman murdered D'anna Olley, despite him being acquitted?
Yes, I do. I do. I understand, though. I understand how certain doubts might have been raised by a couple of things happening during the trial. But had we the same facts, same circumstances over again, we'd go. And I were in the prosecution, Bishop. We would go forward with that case against Bo. As I said, there were some hallmarks: the blood, the pubic hair, the DNA. The evidence was pretty strong. Jury disagreed, though.
I keep asking this because, you did have all of that evidence and yet couldn't get a conviction.
I would guess, an alternate theory would have been that David Olley was attracted to incestuous sex. This child was his daughter, and that David Olley, I'm not advancing this as a theory. I'm just saying this might have been what the jury was thinking, was that David Olley got Bo had just passed out on David Olley's couch, and David murdered his daughter that night and raped her and tortured her and threw her body in that trash can, and then came back in and framed essentially Bo by, Bo being unconscious, smearing D'anna's blood on Bo's underwear, and also harvesting some of his pubic hair and putting it in D'anna. That sounds might sound a little far-fetched, but I think that might have been a theory that some members of the jury adopted. I'm just speculating there, of course.
So, it was very, very sad, very, very sad case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you say it's a very sad case, and I can see even till this day, you still seem kind of emotional about it, really still kind of, shaken up about it.
Yeah. Sabrina, these things get, I've talked about this. These things get etched in your mind. I was there when they pulled the body out. To block, the media. Of course, we don't want the media taking pictures of the body. But as we slowly pulled her out of the trash can, myself and some other officers, along with the Guam Fire Department, we put up, the fire department's bed sheet to block the fire department and the officers as they pulled her body out of the trash can. And I can always go back in time to that day and just imagine and just reimagine what I saw. The body being pulled out, being put into the ambulance and driving off. It is one of the more disturbing cases that I've seen. I've seen a lot of homicides, and it's pretty disturbing. But I feel for the officers who had to attend the autopsy for D'anna Olley, because that's a lot, man. That you're asking a lot from a police officer to walk into a room and watch a little girl get I have to be as graphic, watch a little girl get dissected so that we can obtain evidence.
Unfortunately, the evidence wasn't enough for a conviction.
So for you, this case is closed, despite a jury saying he's not guilty. He didn't.
Yeah, honestly, I can't think of any other person in that investigation, in that whole entire investigation. I can't think of any other persons whose DNA matched D'anna the DNA on D'anna Olley's that we found. I can't think of any other person that was there, who had the opportunity to do what they did to D'anna. We narrowed it down. We had a time frame. We had DNA evidence. We had the circumstantial evidence. We had a timeline of events. Who was there? Who had opportunity? And who was in the house? And I was very saddened. To also what we uncovered about her father. I mean, it's just sad. That this beautiful little girl grew up in such an environment. I don't even know what kind of word to use to describe the environment she was growing up in. I mean, it just boggles my mind that her dad would invite total strangers and have these house parties, and have booze and minors and young adults, just come over. Random people just come over.
It was horrifying. The crime scene photos, this cute little girl, and she, earlier I said she was tortured. She was tortured. A full-grown man had penetrated her vaginally and anally, and she was just 4 years old. And the amount of blood that was present, I think, tells you the violence of the assault. And then after she died, that she was disposed of in that way. It was monstrous. I don't think there's another word for it. It was monstrous. Tough case. Very tough.
Yeah. D'anna Olley would have been around 25 years old today.
We pray for D'anna, God rest her soul. And we pray for her family as always. But yeah, we always pray also that this never happens again in our community. Because, it is shocking and it is disturbing. And, something that, we don't ever want to happen or wish upon anybody else, because it's, we love children, and we love people, but we love, we especially love our children. And we want to see them grow up and thrive and succeed. And unfortunately, little D'anna Olley's life was cut short.
I hope Steve and those guys who investigated it, I hope they're all right about this. Sometimes events can happen that just echo for decades later. And I think it would be a major injustice if people thought that GPD did not do their job. They did their job. And those men and women, they have nothing to regret.
What about you, Tom? You all right?
Well, yeah, but I'm like those guys. Yeah, I'm all right. But that was a heavy case, and it's still here in my chest. So I don't know. Guess we'll let God sort it out, right?
Although Bruneman was acquitted on New Year's Eve 1998, in the new year he was facing another trial for the alleged rape of a teenage girl. Years later, in June 2001, he was also arrested for theft of property. He was released from the Department of Corrections months later. I'm Sabrina Salas Matinani, and this has been Crimes Without Conviction.